do you want it?
Mm-hmm.
Do you want it? Because if you want it and you're willing to be with reality, then the reality is that you're walking this path. You're going into the dark part of the forest, let's say. There's going to be discomfort. There's going to be uncertainty. There's going to be work. There's going to be effort. There's going to be stops and starts. And so if you want it, you can be like, okay, then this is part of it.
And you when we started the conversation, you talked about what for, why.
Right.
So that was something that I didn't get a lot of in the group. Like I didn't get the deeper why. So, meaning it wasn't. Why are you laughing?
To me, like that's where.
That's the fallacy of it?
That's the unfortunate part. When we don't have a why that is rooted in anything other than superficial stuff or our need to be enough.
You are listening to The New Man, Beyond the Macho Jerk and the New Age Wimp. Your host is men's coach Tripp Lanier.
What does it mean to 10x your life? Why are we so afraid to go backwards financially? And what's really driving our desire for more, and more? Today, Alyson and I talk about developing a healthy high achiever mindset. We explore scarcity, motivation, and what really drives us to be set for life. Hello. What are you drinking? What is that?
I am having my mocha, my iced almond mocha.
Do we need to wait till it hits?
I mean, that is my first sip.
You'll be more interesting in about 10 minutes.
Uh-huh.
Does it have a lot of caffeine in it?
I feel pretty sensitive to caffeine. It doesn't feel like it has a lot. I don't know. I haven't actually looked though.
All right.
All right. So
good morning.
Good morning. How are you?
I feel like we've just been going
day
this morning. We haven't. I don't know. It's been. It feels like a strange morning this morning.
Strange how?
I don't. I'm just thinking about it.
Like just going. You mean like just going right into the things that we need to do?
I feel like my head's in a place and your head's in a place, and I just haven't. Normally, I feel a little more connected with you coming into these conversations. But it feels like the first time I've looked at you.
Yeah.
Today.
No, that's true. I haven't
even
been
though
here.
you jumped into my shower.
I did jump into your shower. You didn't even look at me then, though. Well, you were getting out. Are you recovering from your nightmare?
It was more just a stress dream.
Validating all of the stories that you have about the world. You're all alone.
No, it was just like, what do you mean there's a storm? Like, what do you mean?
So the dream, just for context, the dream, you had a massive hurricane coming.
Right.
And everybody else was fucking off.
Right.
But they all knew that the hurricane was coming and you were the only one that didn't.
Yeah. It was a very Florida dream. It was like people were more worried if they had enough rum. And
they wanted to get their hurricane parties together in time.
Anyway, we're good. I feel fine now.
Is there anything else you'd like to do so we feel more connected? Would you feel?
I do have some ideas.
We have work though. We have an agreement
Speaking
that
of
we're
which,
having our conversation today.
Yes, we're having a conversation.
So, in light of that, is there anything else that would help you feel more connected to me?
I think I'm all right. What would you need?
I think I'm pretty good.
I see that. I saw that.
What? What did you see?
I saw you check me out.
I'm just looking down.
I have an idea.
What's your idea?
You could blow off this conversation. And then
That's
really
what we did last week.
Be more connected.
And that's what we did on Monday, on Tuesday, on Wednesday, on Thursday, and on Friday last week.
All right. You know what? Let's be productive. Let's get super productive.
Yeah.
That sounds fun.
Hey, I got an idea. You could 10x your production.
Oh my God. When you say 10x my production, I just get really excited.
You do. I know. You get hard and then you get you want to 10x your production so your sperm just like double.
10x. That's a thing. Like people really into the 10x thing.
Yes, so people really are into the 10x thing. I was part of a group last year, and it was the group's purpose was to 10x your life in whatever way felt impossible.
I've been around a lot of coaches in marketing that use this term, but it seems very vague. It just seems like a...
So... Getting started here.
Really good.
So what I understood. I'm so pretty.
What is that from?
It's like women's culture. Like when you do something really stupid or sloppy, or you don't feel like savvy in any way, you just like, oh, you're so sexy right now. You're so pretty.
Like as a way to compensate.
You're just teasing.
You're not
like,
an idiot. You're pretty.
Yeah, it's just a way to make a joke. Like instead of like you're a clumsy fuck.
Okay,
you're so pretty. Like bless your sweet little heart.
I get the bless your heart. Okay.
Anyway, so what I understand is yes, you're functioning.
If we want to make a change, let's
X.
let a context here. So if we want to make a change,
right,
and
the most folks want to 2x. They want to double their change, right? They look to maybe the horizon. Or maybe just beyond the horizon. That's kind of how I think about it. It's like, oh, just look up, right? What if you looked up and out beyond where you normally look? What's a little bit beyond your glass ceiling? Or what is your glass ceiling and what would break beyond that? Mm-hmm. And often it kind of translates, I think for people it translates as to like, oh, I want to increase my income, or I want to get healthier, or I want to lose 10 or 20 pounds, or whatever it is, right? And so it's like, generally speaking, there's a certain way that we approach making a change, but it's still kind of oriented from the mindset that we're currently in. And so it would require us to do what we're doing, but do more of it, work harder at it. Like there's just a way of approaching it, which is also where we're going to find resistance, which is like, I'm already tired and I'm already full. Yeah. And in order to have 2x of what I've got, it's going to require a lot more energy doing it this way. Yes. Okay. Yeah, absolutely. And usually that's kind of why we get to where we get to or we don't get there at all is because of that, the head, what's going on in our heads. Yeah. So this concept of 10xing, as I understood it, is you blast beyond anything from your past. The Benjamin Hardy kind of goes into this, like most of us think about our future based on our past experiences, our past, how things went in business, how we tried to grow last time, whatever that is, we kind of go based on what we know or what we've done or experienced or didn't experience. And his sort of concept of 10xing is you build the present based on the future you that you want to be. And so 10xing is the concept of going fully way beyond what you ever even conceived. So I liked it because it's an exercise. It's a mindset exercise of like, where are all your glass ceilings? For me, it's shown the light really strongly on all of the ways that I had these sort of stories or limiting beliefs kind of in place. And I didn't even know that I had them half the time. But it wasn't until for me going into this, like what feels impossible, what feels like almost outlandish, right? To like what might my work or my life or whatever it is that I want to focus on look like if I really went well beyond what I currently think is beyond. And And so it was really fun and stressful and edgy and exciting, and enlivening for me. And I would say that I'm somebody that, like, if I'm doing anything, I'm like 1Xing or 2Xing. Like I feel like I take like slow, gradual, incremental growth.
Which I would say that has its benefits. It's a wonderful exercise to look at, well, what would be the thing that's just so far out there and impossible?
Yeah.
And who would I have to become, or how would I have to do things differently in order to get there? Because how I do things now, how I approach my life now, there's just no way it's not going to get there.
Exactly.
So I'd have to look at how I do things and how I structure myself and how I think about my life from a completely different place in order to go do that thing.
And it was really, like I said, I mean, this was super enlivening and helpful and eye-opening for me. It was a way of working with growth and it really in a way that I hadn't worked with before, which was, I mean, it was really fun. But what was interesting, and the reason that I'm kind of wanting to bring this today as a conversation, what was interesting is that, so I was in a coaching group. Okay, I've never been in a coaching group before, ironically, and like a formal one. You
were participating.
I was a participant. And what was really interesting was how the other folks that were in the group received this information and like how they worked with it. So what I became radically aware of really fast was that I was 2/3 of the room, if not 80% of the room or 90% of the room, was a room full of high achievers, like go-getter type achievers. And
the 10X thing is crack for the achiever in us. The winner, like the competitor, like that part of us just loves the idea of the 10X thing.
Well, that was
on the surface, like what that looks like on the surface.
I mean, it was with that. I mean, I appreciate you saying that, because that's kind of, I don't know if that was the vibe I was witnessing, but there was definitely like they were locked on in a state when talking about it and thinking about it, and I was just I felt myself. It's a cool exercise because it does put you in a different state of mind, but they seemed like in a wholly different state than I was in.
How would you describe what was going on for them?
There was just, I think there was an intensity that I maybe don't feel in myself with things like that. And I think that there was how I saw it, and I think this is necessary for achieving big goals, but there was sort of this mono focus that showed up where there wasn't, I didn't see a whole lot of balance or wholeness, and like I didn't hear from the person, the whole person when they would talk. I would pretty much only hear about this sort of their focused goals, and that with respect, that's what the group leader was asking them to like report their sort of milestones.
But these were
or
objective
metrics
goals. The ideas here were objective goals.
They're objective goals.
Things to attain and achieve.
Things to achieve. And a lot of those people that were in the group were talking numbers, like, oh, I'm going to have this many whatever.
Right.
I'm going to make this much money, or I'm going to have this many clients or subscribers or whatever they were talking about. It was like, I'm going to grow. And they would use numbers, or I'm going to have this much by this time. Yeah. Which is not it's not a way I function at all.
Not how you function.
I was like a deer in the headlights. I was like, yo, what are you all doing? How do you do that? So anyway, I think that for many, many people, it's really support. It was this whole group was really helpful.
Why do you
and
think they were
eye-opening
fixated on it? Why do you think they would get in that state? And again, I want to be really careful here, because I believe that all of us have a bit of this achiever in us, and a bit of us that looks at the world through this lens and can go after it. So I want to just watch out for an us-them thing, and I also want to watch out for any kind of pathologizing or stuff. But I see this as well. I work with a lot of people, and I work with a lot of high achievers, and I totally recognize what you're talking about. And if we don't start to ask what this is really in service of, we can lose the plot. And so
I mean that's
so it's not bad at all, but it can get off the rails.
And so I'm not going to answer your question. Instead, I would rather just exchange this, from where we've been in the conversation. I'd like to ask you the difference of sort of healthy versus unhealthy growth, change, challenge, and transformation. How do you know when something's healthy versus unhealthy? How does it lean unhealthy versus healthy? Okay. Those are the questions that I'm holding. And I don't know if those are the words we want to use, even healthy versus unhealthy, but there is something that you see that I haven't seen because I don't work with that. I haven't historically worked much with that kind of population. Right. I'm more with the folks that are wanting to be in touch with their wholeness and their soulfulness and, whatever. So,
yeah.
So,
well, I'm a fan of the 10X kind of talk when it challenges us to think about our lives from a completely different perspective, like how we would go about this can be about relationships. Like if a person is tired of dating the same types of people.
Yeah.
It's not that I would date 10x more people, but it would be like, what would have to change it? Like, I'd have to, if I don't like what's happening, I have to transform this. So, okay, quit finding girls on Instagram based on their physical appearance if you want to have more interiors and more of it. It's like there's just things that you'd have to do to, stop doing X and look more at Y. Okay.
Yeah, I do want to just interject to say that the one place, like the first place I actually really connected with somebody in the group on this topic was on relationship. They were in a situation where they were doing the same thing. They were dating the same kind of women, multiple women at the same time, and they really were wanting a real deep monogamous relationship. But so I was able to have the conversation with them in regard to this in that way, and that was really helpful for me to kind of lock in of like, oh, this is how it works in relationship.
Yeah, and I mean that brings up like, okay, if I don't like I'm going to use achiever language here, but if I don't like the results I'm getting, and that can be in relationship, that can be with my health, that can be my finances. So if I don't like the quote results, the outcomes that I'm getting. And I need to look at the system. Steve Chandler talks about this. He talks about it beautifully. And it's like, it's just a system. Like our results and our outcomes are a result of how we do things. And we have a system for how we do things. And he's like, it's always going to create the perfect result. The system creates its perfect result. So if we don't like that result, we've got to change the system. And a lot of us are just like, well, we just kind of like to complain or bitch or whatever instead of taking a look at ourselves. Or complain
about the system, but not as a victim.
We'll never take responsibility, right? So that's where it can be really healthy. But then it also brings up our bind, our competing commitment or whatever it is, which is like, well, if I was going to change it, yikes, that might mean, if I want to earn more money at this scale, or I want to do relationship in this way, or I'm tired of being the doormat, the people pleaser for folks, then I'm going to come up against the thing that has me do that, has me choose to do that. I'm avoiding something. There's some reason why this system works for me, even if I don't like the outcomes. And so we'll come up, that's what we'll have to move through, is whatever the obstacle or the challenges are. And that can be really uncomfortable. That can be scary. But to me, like that's where this becomes transformative, meaning moving through those obstacles and moving through those challenges in service of the relationships or the health or the professional life that we want can be really beautiful. Sure. Like we come out the other side and like, holy shit, I didn't think I could do that. And now I know that I can. And there's a deep confidence that comes from that, and a self-trust that can come from that of like, I'm really capable. If I put my mind to it, I can learn, I can do things, I can get help, I can get resources and, put structures in place and do a thing. And that's where this is awesome. And I think it's better than just like the incremental stay with the same system, but just put more gas into it and try and run it harder, because that leads to burnout and grinding and, all that other the unfortunate stuff. Yeah.
So I'm curious. I mean, I do agree, like that's where it's awesome, but I feel really curious about the people. I'm coming from a background where people can get really frozen. Like we don't need to get into like super trauma backgrounds or anything, but I am curious, like everybody that I'm sure you have dealt with in your practice that you're doing some version of this with, they naturally, because we all do this, it's kind of a former conversation. We shine a light. When light shines, we're confronted with the places that have been shadowed, but it's like what happens when we freeze, when we're in fear, when we feel kind of consumed by the old beliefs or old stories. How are you working with that? Because you don't necessarily.
I send them to you. Well, I mean, in reality, I do like working in conjunction with therapists sometimes because inevitably it is a growth path, and it's very common that as we set off on this along our way and we start to transform things, parts of us are going to be like, whoa, this feels really unsafe. And even if intellectually or rationally a part of our brain is like, we're okay, we can do this, there might just be things in there that are like, a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks goes by and it's like, I still haven't reached out to that person.
Yes.
And it's not because they're incapable. They're just stuck. They're really frozen. And it's like, okay, well, this could be an opportunity for healing, right? So if we were to think about like, I've got a sports injury and I want to get back to playing my sport, I need to heal this knee, my knee problem so I can get back to playing it. Or if I want to be able to play at a higher level, I need to have a strong knee. I need to strengthen it. And I think that that's a great context for that. But a lot of times we might think we need healing when in actuality we just need to do the thing.
Yeah, that's what I was I was really curious about for you, because I know you lean towards that and like just take action. Like,
well, let's see.
Yeah.
I mean, no amount of standing on the edge of the diving board and doing therapy is going to help me feel okay with diving off the diving board. Right. There's the thing of like jump off the diving board and see.
Right.
How are you? And you're probably okay.
This reminds me so much of when, and this is a story I actually go back to a lot with my clients when we're at this juncture, and it's when we were teaching our daughter how to swim, and so many failed attempts of teaching her because she was just like like screaming bloody murder. It was hard for me to watch. It looked like trauma and action happening, Anyway, when she was finally kind of old enough to really try again, I remember you sitting me down first and then sitting her down and saying, swimming is really fun. Swimming is so much fun. Mm-hmm. And you kind of elaborated on that when she'd see other kids at the pool swimming. He said, learning to swim sucks. Learning to swim is really not fun at all.
It can be really scary.
It can feel really scary. It's really uncomfortable. It's really new. Like you just went down the list. And I remember you not only telling me, but then watching and listening you say that to her. And something in my body just kind of like unwound. Like in a way of like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, okay. Might suck, but we can do this. Like it's all right. We're gonna be okay.
What a powerful distinction to have, right? It's like, oh, if my mindset is to avoid uncomfortable things,
right?
But I don't see the growth like this is in service of this growth. Then I don't grow. Yeah. I just stay in this place and, that was uncomfortable. Let's not go there. Let's not do that again.
Yeah.
And then our lives get really small. So I mean, there's a lot of this is like, well, let's just do the thing.
Yeah.
See how you are on the other side.
Yeah.
And then we'll see if you're really broken or fucked up or whatever, because you're probably not. You're not that fucked up that you can't go do this thing.
And I do want to just add one other thing, because I'm kind of weaving this in right now as I think about certain people I've known, which is this old term, photoshopping your life, like that, where they're just what you see in the world through social media or wherever you're seeing it. It's really crafted to perfection. And so I think there's been this loss of what is unperfect? What does non-perfection look like? What does messy look like? What does failure look like? Because that all gets cut out now.
Yeah, we don't see the process.
We don't see the process.
That's why I love watching these painting videos, watching painters with no talking. Are you going to laugh at me?
Yeah. You're going to talk about how you like to watch painting videos?
I fucking love watching painting videos. But did you watch how they...
little tree?
No, I don't watch the fucking little tree videos. Nothing, no respect to Bob Ross. But to watch where things start, watch how they change, watch how it gets painted over, watch how it gets tried again. And it's just like, this is how shit gets created, not... ABC 1, 2, 3. It's this linear process.
Right.
And we understand the creative process and that it's messy and you try 3 things and one of them sticks or something, it relaxes the part of us that says, I must be doing it wrong.
Yeah. And that's why I wanted to bring it in, because I'm thinking of clients that didn't know how to they wouldn't let themselves move forward either in what they were wanting to create or in their relationships because of that piece. They didn't want to mess up. They didn't want to be vulnerable. They didn't want to feel that messiness. They didn't want to be the messiness.
Yeah.
So,
and again, this comes back to, I want a thing, or I want growth. I want this relationship. But I'm trying to avoid messiness and uncertainty and discomfort. Right. So, right. Just recognize that. But if I want this thing, I say I want to transform X, Y, or Z in my life, then it's on the other side of that discomfort and that uncertainty and that, like, oh gosh, a few people are going to think I'm a total twat or whatever. That's everything we're wanting is on the other side of that. There's no solution that somehow gets to bypass that stuff.
And so what percentage do you think it is just mindset? Like all of this really is just mindset, do you think?
Versus trauma?
Well, we can't say that because we don't know who's got trauma. But just like anybody, let's just say a general person, not a ton of trauma, maybe adverse experiences, but not a ton of real trauma. And it's just the normal person. Like they're just functioning
everybody.
At that everybody.
I would say so.
Yeah.
I mean, that doesn't mean that...
meaning that the conversation or the coaching or whatever it's about mindset. It's about helping them kind of shift their mindset from a fixed to a growth mindset. Is that... It seems to me that the stuff that I was learning, Ben Hardy stuff, that's kind of what it's about, is like shift from a notice where you're fixed and then move into growth mindset specifically.
I think that's one part of it. I agree with that. I think there's another aspect of that, which is, do you want it? Mm-hmm. Do you want it? Because if you want it and you're willing to be with reality, then the reality is that you're walking this path, you're going into the dark part of the forest, let's say. There's going to be discomfort. There's going to be uncertainty. There's going to be work. There's going to be effort. There's going to be stops and starts. And so if you want it, you can be like, okay, then this is part of it. And
when we started the conversation, you talked about what for, why.
Right.
So that was something that I didn't get a lot of in the group. Like I didn't get the deeper why. So, it wasn't. Why are you laughing?
To me, like that's where.
That's the fallacy of it?
That's the unfortunate part. When we don't have a why that is rooted in anything other than superficial stuff or our need to be enough.
Okay, so let's talk about the fallacy. Let's talk. Yeah, I want to hear more about that. Like, how do you, what is the unhelpful? What's unhelpful about this? What's driving the more when it's like that?
So you use the word
wholeness.
About enoughness. You use the word wholeness, and I'm going to put this on a spectrum because I don't think there's a black and white. Oh, I do things for wholeness, or I do things for my insecurity and my low self-worth. So, but I would say that a lot of us, and I see a lot of people that have spent a decade, 2 decades, 3 decades doing things and achieving things and working their way up ladders. Mm-hmm. And the motivation was more. But really underneath the more was an aversion. They're playing not to lose. They don't want to lose. in terms of who I'm supposed to be, the scripts they have about themselves, that about kind of what is acceptable.
And do you think that these scripts are like born and bred when they're babies and young kids in their family?
Whole
or
life.
do you think this comes from
Whole life? Don't be that guy. Don't be a loser. Don't be whatever. There's the status element. You ever fly first class and then have to go back to coach?
No, I've never flown first class. No.
It's not fun. It's not fun going back to coach. Coach wasn't so bad before, but after you've had first class, it really sucks going back to coach. And
so are you saying these people get a taste of
get a taste, and there's
something.
no going backwards. It feels like that's the new floor. Like, okay, we can't go backwards now. And our bodies and our brains and our minds adjust to having life and our lifestyle be a certain way. And we can live in a place of scarcity and fear, even though there's plenty and we live well. But there's like, it could be taken away if I don't continue to earn more. I don't continue to achieve and bring in more. Okay. It's not a bad thing to have nice stuff. And I just want to make sure.
We're talking about where it's not healthy or necessarily a good thing for people. It's important to frame that concept.
It's not healthy when we lose the script, when we actually believe that stuff,
right? The
scripts and the status stuff. And we start to believe like that our existence depends on them.
Or our enoughness or our perfection or whatever it is.
Right. We don't see that we're to a large degree playing not to lose. And so for a lot of us, that fixation on that 10X goal, we're getting into that state, for a lot of us, there's a belief of like, that's the finish line. If I could just get there, all our troubles are over, baby. Right? If I just got to that, I mean, gosh, I can't imagine what else life would just, I could just skate
Cruise.
from there. Right? And whether we're talking about exoneration, the way Phil Stutz talks about it, which is we're trying to exonerate ourselves from effort and pain and uncertainty. But he says those are constants, that no matter how much we make or whatever level and status.
And there's always more work to do, he says, right?
There's always work. Even if it's just your health. It's like, you have a health issue. It's like you got to get off your ass and heal yourself or whatever it is. There's just always effort. But a lot of us don't understand that. And so we see a 10X goal, or we imagine a 10X goal, and what we attach to that is, this is where I'll finally be enough. This is where I'm finally going to feel safe. This is where I'm finally going to feel whatever, fill in the blanks.
And so you're saying that the target or the finish line is constantly moving?
Constantly moving, especially when we get there and we realize it doesn't scratch the itch.
The deeper itch.
The itch the way we thought it would. And there's a lot of us that get to these places.
Can you give me an example of how it doesn't scratch the itch the way we thought it would?
I've worked with people that were like, man, after I made the sale of my company, I kind of thought it'd be great. And it was like nothing changed. I had that money. I have that money in the bank now, and my life still, it feels the same. It felt great for a little while, but ultimately it kind of came back to being the same. And there's a big disappointment. And I've seen some of them be like, now I'm even more stressed because I feel like I've got to do it again. Like I somehow have
I can't lose what I've got.
I still have to prove like it wasn't a fluke. I had one person tell me that recently. Like the win I had, now I'm worried that people think it's a fluke.
Wow.
So I've got to do it again. And it's just like the brain just creates this not enough. Like when we're living in that, what Tara Brach calls that trance of unworthiness, like it's just not enough. It's never enough. And we can't rest. We can't allow ourselves to enjoy it. And so that when our achievers get out of whack and are really, really rooted in the not enough stuff, then it's just it's misery, in my opinion, just from what I've seen and in my own life. It keeps us from really being able to enjoy things and use money or use achievements to be in service of what has us feel more free, more alive, more connected, more loving, more at peace.
And so when you're working with guys that are in that trance, let's just say that trance state, are you actively trying to kind of break the trance, or are you you're just continuing to try to hone in on what's it for to try to get them to connect into that freedom.
Well, January is the month, right? They come in, it's like, oh man, new year, new me. This is the year I'm going to 10X whatever. And it's like, oh, that sounds exciting. But what's it for? How would we know this worked? How would we know this was a success for you? And on one hand, they'll describe that outcome.
Yeah, in the group there, that was it was all metrics though. It was all like,
right.
I'll have 250,000 followers and I'll have 1,000 memberships at this amount of money. And
you can hear the erections popping, right? You can just hear their pants straining. Well, so I don't stop there because I've helped people create those metrics, and then they weren't happy. If anything, they felt more burdened. And so it's like, well, screw this. What's this really for? And so, okay, that metric is a theory. I talk about this in this book, Will Make You Dangerous. That metric, that outcome, I believe is if I achieve this, then I'm going to feel a certain way.
Like your life will look, feel, sound like this once you achieve that.
Most of the time, I'll be more free. If I have this money, I'll feel free. If I can able to do this, I'll be alive. There's just like, okay, we go down, and I help them. What is it that you're hoping this means you'll feel? Okay, and they have their own words, but it's easy to kind of come back to feeling free, feeling alive, love, connection, peace. Just like, oh, I'll finally be out of this thing, right? And so, okay, cool. Well, we know that's what we're ultimately playing for. And then these 10X goals are what you think will get you there. So we can keep those up there for now. But we could also look at it, what will have you feel more free today? What would have you feel more alive today?
Now, do you have people that when you do that, are the people that are really still in that kind of not enough trance, are they like, no, that's not safe?
No, we'll keep working on that.
Because
I do both.
I can't just feel free now because then I won't work towards my goals.
There's definitely a fear. Yeah, there's definitely a split
I'm like,
there.
I'm good. I mean, that's actually, there was a thing with, I don't know where I learned this. I saw it somewhere, but they were talking about with The Secret and the vision boards and all that. They were saying that in true growth, that doesn't actually instill true growth because it puts people in the state of as if they already have it, and then they're good. Like they don't actually, like they're just more content as they are because they're just visualizing what they're.
Which great.
Right.
Be happy.
Yeah.
Isn't that the fucking goal? Well, that's what
I'm asking. So I'm asking, like, do you get people that are like, whoa, that's not, like parts that show up, protectors that are like, that's not safe. I can't actually do that. Similar to like, it's not perfection. I can't be vulnerable or I can't mess up and fail forward.
And usually that part is driven from, well, I'm not enough unless I do this thing. So there's a protector there and rooted in the not enough thing. So it's like the striving and the doing hard things is where they get their self-worth.
So it could be that you say like, well, what's going to have you feel more free now? And they're like, well, if I'm going to do this hard thing, I'll strive and do that hard thing. And then I'll feel more free on the other side. Like I'll take the challenge today and then I'll feel more enlivened. Like, do they answer like that?
Really
usually?
The question is like, what keeps you from feeling free today? And usually it's, well, I've got this obligation, I've got that obligation. And then it's like, okay, well, what would you do to relax that obligation or to renegotiate that? And it's like, oh, well, I'd have to have this conversation. I'd have to sit down with my wife and do X, Y, Z. This is the shit they're avoiding. Yeah. And so they've created this summit to reach instead of just addressing the things that are in their lives. Now, that doesn't mean that there aren't things that we want to move towards and create.
Yeah, because you help guys like double their income and all that shit still.
Absolutely, but it's in service of freedom, aliveness, love, and peace. It's not at the expense of, and it's like, what good is it if we just get there and you still have this shit going on with your wife or your boss or whatever? It's like you're still not free. You're still living within this structure. That keeps you trapped.
So I want to just try to bring in. I have a question about just more like I'm curious if I don't ever hear you use this language, but when I was in this group, there was a lot around this language, and the language was, who do you need to be in order to get the thing that you want? Or who do you need to be to reach that impossible goal? Or who do you need to be to, so there's a lot around who do you need to be. And I think that that's borrowing from what they were sharing around like the future, you imagine your future self, and then who do you need to be in the present in order to actualize that future self. You don't talk like that though.
I might use just different language, but it was like, oh, this is going to require me to be disciplined. This is going to require me to be fierce with my boundaries. This is going to require me to be courageous.
Okay.
So there's like, maybe it's less about the who and like I take on a persona. It might feel like that, but it can also just be like, okay, this is where discipline comes in. This is where mindfulness comes in. I can't be checked out. I've got to be present. I've got to be courageous. I've got to set boundaries. I've got to say yes and I've got to say no. So that we can look and see where with the part of our mindset where we just sell it out. Oh, I say I want a thing. I had a great call with my coach, and then 6 days later I haven't accomplished anything. Yeah, we can look at the choices and be like, oh, I wasn't disciplined. Yeah, I wasn't clear about X, Y, Z. Right. I didn't set a boundary.
I went back to my old ways.
I went back to the old way of doing things. So, that's to me like that's kind of speaks to the same thing, and I like that
who
better.
You've been won't get you where you want to be.
Yeah, but I like that better than I'm gonna play a role. I'm gonna act like this person.
That helps me because I was always like, that's interesting. Who do you? I mean, I got it. I understood what they were saying, but
for some people that works, but then they might lose the plot and start to think that's who I have to be in order to be accepted
constantly
or loved.
Kind of performing a certain, donning a mask of some way.
I can't relax that role. Instead of, I can be me and there's a courageous version of, what does courage look like for me? Yeah. Well, I just want to say I look forward to you just 10xing your life.
Well, I do want to say.
Does that mean we have 20 beehives?
It definitely means we have more than we have.
More beehives.
I'm already on track. If you look to your right.
I can't wait for you to crush it. Crush it, girl.
As you were talking, I was like, oh, I'm still doing some of the things that I do that I've historically done that don't help me move forward in my goals. So
here's what you can listen to. Not this is just coach, okay, not your husband.
Okay.
But yeah, when you listen to this, like, what's the thing that needs to be done? What am I waiting to do?
For sure. So I need to follow through on 3 conversations that they were invitations to have a conversation.
Right.
That I need to follow through on.
Okay. Because I say that because a lot of folks are kind of mindset nerds. They love to geek out about mindset and talk about growth and all that kind of stuff. But then the application and the going and doing the thing is really where we transform ourselves. Right. Like, oh my God.
Yeah, no, that was what was helpful for me was what it did was it essentially helped shake out and highlight what were the actual actions in order to move forward. Yeah.
What would be satisfying? What would be really satisfying to do or create or
what's the, like, in terms of the, what do you need? Who do you need to be, or that sort of thing? Like for me, it was I need to just go get wet, like go swimming, learn to swim, like just go flop around. And those conversations are probably not going to be very, very skillful on my part. I might feel anxious or stutter or whatever.
Right?
What's that?
That's how you learn.
That's how you learn. Yeah, I just have to like the fail forward thing. So but that was helpful because I didn't come into this conversation this morning thinking about that, and it's virtually my Monday morning. So, thank you.
If these interviews are helping you, please leave a positive review on whatever podcast app you use so that others can discover the show more easily.